there is the example of many other countries, and in particular, and I often talk about the real remarkable way in which South Africa, on the release of Mandela, and preparatory to it, engaged in a whole range of dialogues, a whole way in which leaders, national and regional, local leaders, could come together, not because they were necessarily of one mind, but because they were confronted with a search for a vision of what their country was going to look like as a new democratic nation, having shifted from apartheid. And in the search for that kind of vision, a common vision, it does require a new basis around which to have a dialogue. It needs to be structured. It's not just another discussion, not just another conversation. We see on the news every night the efforts of mediators and others, either in Northern Ireland or between the Palestinians and the Israelis, or any other nation in conflict and strife. And yet in Australia, we've not had a true Australian dialogue with Indigenous people. Now, we organised one in the Kimberley, and it was tremendously disappointing that even at this regional level, there are very few, if any, that came from our local businesses or from our local government. Yet there are many of the Indigenous leaders there, and Dr. Gundara himself came. If there is going to be real change, in the words of Mr. Rudd, in the apology he made about a new chapter being written in a collaborative way without the constraints of the past, then there has to be a new dialogue. There has to be a way of the hearts and minds of all of us being able to meet. And the usefulness of the video that we saw tonight helps present the views of people who are in pain, who know injustice is being perpetrated upon them, who are defenceless because there's no foundational principles within our democracy by which Indigenous peoples can defend themselves, either by way of treaty or by way of substantive head of power within the Constitution. And I suppose what it really highlights is that the dialogue is not divorced from the practicality. People need houses, need education, need health, need services. We've had a Royal Commission, 339 recommendations, and yet the levels of detention of the young people, young Aboriginal people in this state, is running at about 75% of that population that are in detention. Why is this? So these things about rights and justice cover a whole framework and context that we call society. And unless there is a real new dialogue around this, we as Australians remain not only diminished, but ridiculed and embarrassed because we've not had the maturity or the seriousness of commitment or the resolve to shift out of that comfort zone, stop being the house slave and move into the field where action has to be taken. There's plenty of opportunity for it. One day there will be the achievement of this dream of a united Australia that has dealt with its past, that has been able to truly reconcile, and when there is proper justice and equity for the Indigenous people, and where we can all stand with pride around that. And until there's a real new basis, resetting this relationship, the awfulness that many, many Indigenous people have to suffer, and the embarrassment and the shame that many non-Indigenous people have to wear will continue. Thank you.